are objects that hold a strange kind of pull. Not because they're beautiful, and not because they promise any visible reward, but simply because they're forbidden. A closed door in an unfamiliar house. A drawer someone asked you not to open. A box that's been sitting on the table for days with no explanation. The stronger the warning, the harder it becomes to look away. That tension, as old as humanity itself, is exactly what sits at the heart of one of ancient Greece's most famous myths, the story of Pandora and her mysterious box. To understand why that box exists, we need to go back a little. Before Pandora came into the world, human beings lived without fire. They had no way to keep warm in winter, no way to cook food, no knowledge of flickering light or the heat that allows metal to be shaped. All of that changed because of Prometheus, one of the Titans, powerful figures from the generation that came before the gods of Olympus. Prometheus felt a deep affection for mortals, and one day he made a bold decision. He climbed up to the chariot of the sun, took a spark of fire, and carried it down to earth to give to human beings. Zeus, the supreme god of Olympus, ruler of gods and mortals alike, did not take it well. Fire was a privilege of the gods. Sharing it with humans meant disturbing the order of the world, narrowing the distance between the divine and the mortal, and Prometheus had done it without asking. Zeus punished the Titan severely, but that still wasn't enough. The imbalance remained. Humans now had something they were never meant to have. And Zeus, who never let a debt go unpaid, decided he would respond with a gift. Not just any gift. A gift that would appear beautiful but would carry something unexpected inside. He gave the task of creating that gift to Hephaestus, the god of the forge, master craftsman of everything that can be shaped by fire and skill. Hephaestus took clay, as tradition tells it, and with his expert hands began to shape something the world had never seen. A woman. Not a goddess, but an entirely new kind of being, created from scratch by the gods to live among mortals. When the figure was finished, the gods of Olympus approached one by one to give her something of themselves. Aphrodite, goddess of love and beauty, gave her grace and charm. Athena, goddess of wisdom, taught her the arts of weaving and gave her skill in the crafts of the home, which in the ancient world were far more than simple chores. They were knowledge and ability passed from one generation to the next. Hermes, messenger of the gods and the sharpest mind among them, gave her the gift of persuasive speech and a curiosity that couldn't easily be put out. Other gods added their own touches: wit, elegance, allure. When she was complete, Zeus gave her a name. He called her Pandora, which in ancient Greek can be understood as she who holds all gifts or she who receives all gifts. That's exactly what she was, a collective creation of the gods, built piece by piece with the finest qualities Olympus had to offer. Pandora arrived in the mortal world carrying an object with her. A box, according to the version of the story that has come down to us through centuries of tradition. It's worth noting that in the oldest Greek texts, that object was actually a large jar, the kind of clay vessel used to store food or liquids. Over time and through translation, the image of the jar slowly became the box we all know today. Whether jar or box, what matters is what it held and what it meant. The instruction was clear and absolute. Do not open it, ever, under any circumstances. No one explained why. No one described what was inside. Just the warning, firm and without justification. At first, Pandora lived alongside the box without much difficulty. She had a new life, an entire world to discover, and gifts that made her capable and curious. But the box was always there, always present. And the question that wouldn't go away was the same one anyone in her place would have had. What is inside? The weight of not knowing is hard to carry. Even harder when the unknown is right there, close enough to touch. Pandora looked at the box. She thought about the warning. She circled it with her eyes. She walked away. She came back. The prohibition, which at first had seemed reasonable, slowly became the most urgent question in her existence. Why would something so important require such secrecy? What could possibly be so powerful that it couldn't be seen? Pandora's curiosity wasn't carelessness or defiance for the sake of it. It was something deeper and more human. The drive to understand, to know, to not be left with only half the story. That same drive that led humans to explore unknown lands, to ask questions about the sky and the earth, to search for answers where before there had only been silence. One day, Pandora reached out and opened the box. What came out had no visible form. It wasn't a monster or a dark cloud. It was something harder to see and impossible to stop. From inside the box came all the hardships that would from that moment on accompany human beings. Pain and exhaustion, illness and fear, sorrow and envy, old age and uncertainty. Things that hadn't existed in the world before, or that had existed in a different way, less present, less sharp. Pandora understood immediately. She slammed the box shut with all her strength, with the urgency of someone trying to undo what can't be undone. But it was too late. Almost everything had already escaped. Almost everything. When the silence returned and Pandora looked inside once more, she found that something had stayed behind. At the very bottom of the box, quiet and fragile, one last thing remained: hope. Why hope was inside that box, among all those hardships, is a question the ancient Greeks left open. Some interpretations say Zeus placed it there on purpose, so that human beings could keep going in spite of everything. Others suggest that hope can also deceive us, that it sometimes makes us believe things will get better when they won't, necessarily. There's no definitive answer, and perhaps that ambiguity is part of what makes the myth so enduring. What does remain clear is the final image: Pandora standing before the closed box, the world already changed, and something very small still held inside. Hope didn't fly out like everything else. It stayed. And according to the myth, that was no accident. Pandora is not the villain of this story. She's a figure created by the gods with every gift they could offer, including her curiosity, which may be the most human gift of all, and also the hardest to contain. The Greeks didn't tell this myth to say that curiosity is dangerous, or that asking questions leads to ruin. They told it to explore something more complex, that knowledge has consequences, that some doors can't be fully closed again once opened, and that even when the world becomes harder to live in, something in us insists on continuing, on finding meaning, on not giving up entirely. That thing left at the bottom of the box, small and persistent, is what the ancient Greeks called hope, and it's still there.